Okay, everybody, let's move on to session 3. This session covers mainly Notes page 8 and page 9. I try not to be too greedy. I just want to cover the focus of this session will be on fiscal policy. And actually, we have came across fiscal policy, something like that in the past when we talk about aggregate demand, aggregate supply, chapter 17 and 18. This is sort of like a quick revision. I hope you still remember what we covered in those chapters, and they also appeared in your final exam as well. So the first thing is to remind you, okay, what is fiscal policy? Now, fiscal policy in a say simple way is that the government, through the use of government consumption expenditure, okay, so that is G we are talking about. It's not public expenditure we are focusing on, because public expenditure may include transfer payment, which is not included in G. And in that case, we can't say anything about the AD curve. So for this analysis, we try to be more specific. We use government consumption expenditure, which is G, a component of the GDP figure, as in the expenditure approach. So the government is trying to manipulate the G, or okay, what we call a net tax. Now, net tax in simple terms is just the government tax revenue minus its transfer payment. Okay, so there are two possibilities. The government can use them in combination, or they can just use any particular one, increasing or decreasing G, increasing or decreasing net tax. Now, so let's take a look at the first one, an expansionary fiscal policy. Now, once again, we are talking about manipulating, or if it is an expansionary, that means increasing G, or decreasing net tax. Mr. Tim, is it increasing or decreasing net tax? Remember, this is tax. Tax means you are taking money away from the citizens. And now you want the economy to be better. So you should try to reduce tax. All right? So it's decreasing net tax. The result will be pretty straightforward. Let's use G. Your government consumption expenditure increase. That means your aggregate demand is going to go up. The aggregate demand is going to shift to the right. So here I have two different illustrations. When is it good to use an expansionary fiscal policy? Now, on the left-hand side, let's take a look at this one first. On the left-hand side, okay, the expansionary fiscal policy is good when the economy is having what we call a deflationary gap. I hope you still remember what a deflationary gap is. Oh, I totally forgot. Never mind, take a look at the diagram. So your short run equilibrium is here at ES. The short run aggregate output level is at Y1, which falls short of the full employment output level YF. That means there are idle resources in the economy. Not all the resources are being utilized. And to a certain extent, the economy is what we call underperformed. It's not doing the best. All right. So in this case, what do you expect? You expect quite a significant level of unemployment because not all the resources, for example, labor, are being employed. The inflation rate will be minimum. not much pressure on the general price level. Economic prosperity is not really good. People don't have much confidence in the economy. They're not investing much. Okay, that kind of thing. Now, so under this situation, it is better for it's better for the government to adopt an expansionary fiscal policy. What is going to happen? As I have just mentioned above, you increase your government consumption expenditure, G. That means your aggregate demand is going to shift to the right, to AD1. Here, as you can see, your short-run equilibrium is at ES, your short-run aggregate output is at Y1, 4 shots of YF. Now, with the increase in your aggregate demand, you can go back to long-run equilibrium, GL, where LRAS, SRAS, and the AD curve, all three curves intersect at the same point, GL, and full employment, YF, can be attained. So this is nice. The economy can finally get back to where it belongs. Now, we should note that the general price level will go up, but normally it won't cause much harm, because when the economy is underperforming, there will probably be deflation. So the general price level is sort of pushing up to the normal level. Okay, so this is the good thing. All right, let's see the description. Expansion fiscal policy helps to restore, what we call restore, the long-run equilibrium, GL, general price level will go up. Well, it brings in a certain degree of inflation, shouldn't be too serious, probably 2 to 3%. So expansionary fiscal policy is used when, as I've just said, when the economy is facing recession, or when the economy is even worse, locating at a drought. Okay, the government is trying to rescue the economy, bring it back onto its normal track. Okay, expansionary. Now, is it always good? Not really. Well, policy can always be misused. So on the second diagram, on the right, what would be the problem? Now, it's really poor if you adopt an expansionary fiscal policy when the economy is already in its long-run equilibrium. Now, you can see here the economy is already resting in EL, LRAS, SRAS, and AD, they intersect at point GL, and the economy is resting at full employment YF. Now, if you implement an expansionary fiscal policy by now, once again, the AD curve is going to shift right to AD1. What will that cause? Simple. You will create a short-run equilibrium, ES, which is much to the upper right-hand corner of the original equilibrium. That means your price level will be pushed much higher than the normal or should be level. And you will create also an inflationary gap. Your short-run aggregate output is now much higher than the potential or full employment output level. All right, so the problem is here, I've put it down already. The general price level goes up, you will induce inflation. You have an inflationary gap. Now, if you still recall your 17 and 18, how will the economy adjust back? Well, you have an excess demand of factors, right? Excess demand of factors, not just labor, of factors, S. So the cost of production is going to go up. And your SRAS is going to shift left. Now, it will definitely eventually end up here, SRAS what? Going back to full employment output level, but unfortunately, your price level will be further pushed up. That means you ended up with no increase in real output. Now remember, the Y here is real output. It's not nominal output, it's real output. So in this case, you don't have any increase in real output, but you keep pushing up the general price level and makes the general public suffers because they have to face inflation. And therefore, it will be pretty stupid to introduce an expansionary fiscal policy when the economy is experiencing its long-run equilibrium, and perhaps even worse, it start off with an inflationary gap. Never adopt an expansionary policy if there is already an inflationary gap. Okay, so this is the expansionary part. What about the contractionary part? Well, simple. Contractionary, that means you are reducing G, so AD is going to shift left. The general price level will go down. The short-run aggregate output will go down. And therefore, it is good when the economy is overheating. When you start off with an inflationary gap, okay, there's excess demand of everything, and you shift the AD back a little bit to the left to attain the original long-run equilibrium level. So the price level will go back to its normal rate, and your output, your aggregate output, your real output will go back to YF. Okay, hey, Mr. Chen, are you doing any diagram for this one? No. As I said, this is an introductory thing. For your revision, I would strongly suggest you to draw this diagram at least minimum, that means a minimum, 3 to 5 times. Depends on, well, different people got different ability. Now remember, during exam, you have approximately 5 minutes for a question like this. And this is related, highly related with chapter 17, chapter 18, and your DRQ. You didn't do well in the final exam DRQ part. Now remember, the DRQ actually incorporates all the chapters from micro and macro. And so often they will give you a policy 1, policy 2, right? Policy 1, policy 2. And sometimes this policy will involve expansionary, contractionary, fiscal, or monetary policy. I'll cover monetary policy in the next session. That is much more complicated. All right, so I'll leave that for the one. Make sure you understand this one. And in your spare time, before you go to the next session, draw these diagrams and explain to yourself what is going on before you move on to monetary. All right, or else you will just make everything a mess. Okay, so much for this time.